Well, I need to stop putting it off, and I need to paint this guy. I don't really build a lot of models with figures in it because painting faces is definitely not my strong point. I have seen some really nicely painted figure faces, and I've also seen some that just really don't look good at all. Not trying to be mean to anybody, because I'm sure that somebody could say the same about my work. So I finally got some pictures of the way the pilot should look. He's going to have a white helmet and an orange flight suit. That part I'm not really concerned about. Like I said, I'm concerned about painting the face. When it's done, I'm looking for a reaction of like when somebody looks at it. I want them to either say something like, wow, that looks really good, or, well, at least he tried. You know, I don't want somebody to look at it and say, man, that looks like crap. What was he thinking? So what I'm going to do, and let me see if I can zoom into this a little bit better. No, doesn't like that. All right. I think what I'm going to do, now I'm not going to video the whole process of painting. I'm going to give you my idea of what I think I should do step by step along the way, and I'll kind of take photos, or I'll just come back to it after each step. But my plan is to paint his face first before I paint anything else. I want to go in with like a dark wash all around his face. That'll darken up the line between the face and the helmet, and maybe around his chin strap and his neck. And then I'll go in with I'll do his face with a maybe like a little piece of sponge or something, with like a flesh tone. And then I'll go in with a slightly different shade and see if I can highlight any of the cheekbone areas. Then with a slightly different shade to do the lips, and then maybe a little bit dark on the eyes, the eyebrows, something. And we'll just see how it goes. I mean, fortunately, it's small enough that I don't think anybody's going to get close enough to really look at it. I mean, I'm going to have to use this thing to paint. You know, let me try something here. Let's see how well, if I put that, well, how's that look? Yeah, that's pretty good. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. But he does have some really nice facial details, and hopefully I can pick those out, and hopefully I can do this guy justice and make him look halfway decent. And you know, I'm afraid he's going to end up looking like a cartoon when I'm all done with him. But I think if I get a little bit of different shading in there, and if I can make the eyes look okay without looking like they're bugging out, and as long as he doesn't look like he's wearing lipstick, you know, if I try a different shade on his lips, hopefully it'll all work out. One other thing I'm going to do, the oxygen mask is kind of hanging off his shoulder there a little bit. I got to figure out how to get the seatbelts around that. So obviously the seatbelts are not going to go over top of the oxygen mask. So I got to figure out how to apply the seatbelts so they look like they're going under the oxygen mask. I don't know if I'd be able to really cut that off and reattach it later. I don't know. I'll have to figure that out later. First, I'll get his face painted. I'll focus on the face. After the face is painted, I'll cover it with some putty or something, so I can then airbrush the helmet white. I'll do his flight uniform. I'll do that orange. Then I'll add in some dark washes to bring out some depth and texture of his flight uniform. I'll do the little chart here. You know, he should look good. Here's the seat. It's not completely finished yet. Let me try this little trick here again. Take a look at the seat here. Get that right. Yeah, that's not focusing as well as his head did. The seat is a little bit dark, because, you know, it's mostly flat black, and I did, from reference photos, like the cushion on my reference photos is black with some yellow. It's like the structure of the seat was yellow under the cushion. Then you got that striped pull handle, which I think is a little bit too high. I think the handle should be lower. But when you put the pilot guy on there, it's, you know, it's sticking right down there. It's below the top of his legs. I think that'll look okay when it's all together. The area here where the parachute gets packed, that's kind of like an olive drab, olive green, gloss black on the top, kind of a darker green for the backrest seat cushion. And the oxygen bottle and oxygen controller there gets the green color. And there's a red sticker on the side. I masked that off and hand brushed that red sticker on the side. So I think it looks all right. I think it looks pretty decent. My only concern is once this is all together, you know, I'm thinking the cockpit's going to be pretty dark, because the side panels, cockpit are gray, the seats dark colors. At least the pilot will have a white helmet. The cockpit area, as I said, the panels are kind of gray. I airbrushed those the color is actually called aircraft gray. Then I went in here with the dark wash, with the black wash, and wiped all that off to try to pick out some details and give some depth to the back of that. Now, as far as the sidewall panels and the cockpit panels, I did get some photo etch parts. Now, I don't remember if I talked about these yet or not. I kind of screwed up a bit, because when I ordered it, I ordered a F104G, where the T means trainer. So this is a cockpit for a trainer. Which is why there's two sets of instrument panels, which I didn't even realize that when I got it, but that's fine, because I did a little bit of research, and as best as I can tell, the trainer 104G is the exact same instrument panel as just the normal 104G. So if I screw up a set, I got another set to go with. So before I install the instrument panel sections, the sidewall panels, what I'm going to have to do is sand off the sidewall panel details here, because those are some raised up details that will interfere with the photo etch part going on. And same with the instrument panel. If I can find it. Yeah, it would be nice if I was prepared. But it's behind me somewhere. I just have to find it. But the instrument panel also has raised details that I'm going to have to sand off, that I'm going to have to take care of. And yeah, so yeah, once I get the pilot painted, I'm going to have to get the seat set into the cockpit, put the control stick in, that way I can locate his arm, get his arm in position. There's a lot of stuff that kind of overlaps here. I did get the little D-ring handle pulls made. Those are really tiny, and of course that mounts on the top of the headrest there. I'm trying to get out of the shadow, but anyways, and that'll just kind of get super glued in place, or CA glued in place. And I'm a little concerned about just using CA glue. You know, that's like extremely lightweight. I really doubt any kind of a bump or a knock to the model would break that off. But I'm really tempted to drill a hole, like right here. Just drill a hole kind of at an angle straight down right here, and run a thread through that, and wrap the thread around that red part area, and then glue that all in, and then just repaint over that with the red paint. That way it would never get broken off or knocked loose. So I don't know. Just looking at how he sets, you know, I'm really glad I shortened the seat, because now his head is in a much better proportion to the headrest from all the reference photos that I've seen. Not only that, the canopy wouldn't fit until I did that. So I think it's looking pretty good so far. My only concern is screwing it all up by messing up how I paint his face. The instrument panels I'm not too concerned about. Fitting it all into the fuselage I'm not too concerned about. It's just painting this guy. So I've been putting it off. It's time to do it. So let me get the first step done. I'll get a few I don't know, a few colors laid down on his face, and we'll see what he looks like. Okay, so I got a bit more done with the cockpit items. I've been going through some of the parts here from the photo etch parts. For the cockpit area here, we'll see how well this focuses in here. I got the photo etched parts for the side walls, and for the back wall here, I basically airbrushed the whole thing with a gray. I did a black wash, and a few of the little tiny smaller details there I just kind of hand brushed in with a lighter shade of gray just to kind of break up the tone a little bit. You kind of get an idea here of that. The instrument panel, I believe, is done, and that, man, I really hope this focuses. Let me try this here. All right, it's not too bad. So a lot of nice details at the cockpit. There are some things here that, man, real pain in the neck. For example, I don't even know if we're going to be able to see them here, but right here, I don't even want to touch it, I'm afraid it'll break off. Right about here and over here, there's a little tiny yellow handle, looks like a T handle. And right here, there's a little tiny, like a red, like another little red handle. And there's another handle sticks up right over here. You know, I've had splinters bigger than those. Trying to get those glued in place was, yeah, a little bit challenging. And I don't even know how well they're going to show up. You can kind of see them. And the thing is, with all the trouble I went to get those glued in place there, once this is all in and the canopy on, I really don't think anybody's going to even see those. I mean, they're barely visible to the naked eye. But with the main instrument panel across the top, that was actually 2 pieces. If we look at the instruction set here, we have a background piece, and then a part that goes over top of that. And the part that goes over top of that had the holes cut out for it so you can see the instruments behind it. And gluing those on, what I used for that, and I showed this before, I pointed this out before. Why is my focus all screwed up here? Okay. I used this before. Again, it's an infrared curable resin. I guess resin is the right word. I guess you could use glue for lack of a better word. But it goes on clear, cures clear, and the nice thing about it, it won't cure until you hit it with the light here, and that sets it in place. And what I did was I glued on the first panel with just CA glue, and then once that's set, I put a thin layer of the UV curable glue, and then I put that over top of it. And what that did was it actually kind of created like a little lens in those holes. It created like a clear glossy lens. So if you can get close enough to see it, it actually looks like you've got a glass lens over the instrument, which is great. But again, once it's all in and the canopy's on, nobody will ever see that. I love this stuff. It works great. If you get this, if you use it, one thing I highly recommend, when you store it, you know, that's the cap you take off, the little nozzle to squeeze out. The cap looks like it's made to where you can just kind of set it down this way and store it that way. Don't do that because it leaks. If you store it that way, it'll gradually just ooze out and leak, and you can see it just makes a mess all over the place. Store it standing up this way, and you'll have much less mess. Now, remember I said earlier that the set that I used is for TF104G, which gave me dual instruments. I'm glad they gave me that because, like I said earlier, I'll probably screw one up. Trying to put the first one on, when I glued that part on, it went on just a little bit crooked. Probably nobody would have ever noticed it, but I could notice it. It bothered me. So I pulled it off. I ran a razor blade underneath of it and sliced it off. And it was probably reusable. It very slightly bent, but I decided not to use it. And instead I used it as a practice piece for the UV clear, clear stuff. I used it as a practice piece for bonding the other one on. And I'm trying to get that to focus better. And I don't know, it looks like it's not really gonna, my focus isn't cooperating today. But I used it as a practice piece, and then I went through and I just did the other one, put the other one on. And it's fine, it's fine. I can maybe throw this in another aircraft model that doesn't matter what it is, because I probably won't build another 104. Okay, next up, the pilot. Let me show you the pilot. Mounted the pilot in my little holder here. Put a plastic rod up on its back. And I'll actually use that to secure it in the seat. I'll probably drill a hole. That looks weird. I'm sorry. I'll drill a hole in the seat and I'll cut that rod shorter, and I'll use that to help lock him in and bond him into the seat. And so I got his face painted, and see if I can focus on that a little bit better. Again, my camera equipment is like horrible, but it's like it's trying to focus, but that's just too close. But anyways, that's okay, because the closer I zoom in, the more mistakes you'll see. But you know, to the naked eye, his face, I think his face looks pretty good. I didn't overdo it with the paint. I painted it with a yellow background. I made like a kind of a brownish tone, and that over the yellow background, I think the yellow kind of shines through a little bit, and I think that kind of helps make more of a skin tone and less of just a brown tone, if that makes any sense at all. When I painted the helmet to mask off his face, I used some of this stuff. It's the tacky stuff that you use to hang up posters on your wall without damaging the wall. I just pulled off a little piece of that and I just smushed it right into his face. And then I did a primer on his helmet, and then white. You notice I got a little bit of primer on his suit here. That's fine. Maybe when I put the orange on, that'll help kind of break up the monotonous tone of the orange. Maybe we'll get a little bit of different shading on the orange, possibly. I don't know. It'll probably just completely cover it. I'm not too concerned about it. But so far, I think the pilot guy is looking pretty decent. I did have to reposition his feet. His feet are horrible. He's got the biggest, flattest feet. But with him setting in the seat, his feet were actually contacting the floor too much, preventing him from setting in the seat. So I cut his feet off, sliced them at an angle, and reattached them so they're up at an angle. That way they'll kind of be on the rudder pedals a little bit better, and that allowed him to sit down in the seat a little bit better. And of course, once it's all together, you'll never even see his feet. Okay, so for the pilot, all I got to do now is paint the suit, flight suit. It is going to be orange. I got some orange paint. It's actually called German orange, which hopefully is the right kind, because it is for a German pilot for the German aircraft, German flight department. So hopefully that's the right shade of orange. And I'll just do the shoes black. I'll do the gloves probably like an olive drab or a dark gray or something like that. So the pilot's almost done. Again, my biggest concern was his face, and the face actually looks pretty good. This part's pretty much all done. The instrument panel's pretty much all done. So I'm almost done with the cockpit. So what I'll do is I'll get back with you after this guy's painted and in the seat, which I think I showed you the seat already. I didn't do any more to the seat since I showed that to you last. The next, I think the biggest hurdle for the cockpit now is going to be the seat belts, and I got a couple of seat belt kits. And one thing I'm going to have to figure out is how to get the seat belt to go under, because there's these oxygen mask and the hose from the oxygen mask, and I got to figure out how to get the seat belt to go under the oxygen hose. And what I might just do is cut the belt and glue it right up next to it, and then put a section of belt right here. because I thought about slicing all that off, putting the belts on and putting that back on, but I don't know. I think the end result would look the same either way, but that would be a lot more work. So I still have to decide on that, still have to figure out what I want to do with that. So seat belts are the next big hurdle, and then the cockpit shouldn't be that much to get the cockpit done. So let me get some more done on this, and I'll get back with you. Okay, so the cockpit is pretty much done. I sent pictures to the guy I'm building it for, and he gave me his approval because I wanted to make sure that everything is okay. Because once the canopy goes on, it'll be a little late to change anything. So the instrument panel is just kind of resting in there. It's not straight. That'll get glued in after I glue the cockpit in. So, which I will do later. I don't want to glue that in just yet, because what I want to do is go ahead and just paint the white around the opening here. I think that'll make it easier for masking and painting the canopy later. So I'll go ahead and just kind of airbrush that white, and then just before I put the two halves together, I will glue the cockpit in. And I don't know how well the video is going to focus on this, so I'll put I'll just put some still shots at the end. But if we take a quick look at the instrument panel, get that guy out of there without breaking anything off, which I already did once. We'll see how well that focuses. But there's some tiny little details in there. Like I said, I'll try to get some still shots of it later. But there's little tiny, like, yellow handles and a red handle. One little right there at where my thumb is. Let me see if I can point to that. I added that after the fact. There's a little yellow handle right there, and I know it's not going to focus, and you can't even see it very well. But in the real cockpit, there's a little yellow handle there with black stripes, and it does have the black stripes. It's just really hard to see. And so anyways, that's the finished instrument panel. Some of those little pieces were a real pain in the rear. Kind of wonder why they even bothered putting them in there, because you're going to have a hard time seeing it. Of course, since it was part of the kit, I put it in. And those are these parts here. Let me see here if I can refocus that. So the little handle here, and there's another little handle that goes up here, two little handles that go here, one little handle here, and yeah, those are just ridiculously small. But I put them in. On the other side, I think that's the throttle, and that little piece, that's original to the kit. That came with a photo etch set. And there are some really nice rudder pedals. And let me see if I can show you those rudder pedals here. Some really nice rudder pedals. I just kind of painted those in flat black, and some good detail on the rudder pedals, but I'm not going to use them because, well, you can't see them. So I guess I could throw them in there just to say they're there, but I don't know. Before the canopy goes on, there's a few other smaller parts that will go in. One of these little red levers here, that goes in the side wall of the fuselage before the canopy goes on. And one of these little, I think it's a canopy latch, goes on the right hand side. I'll put those on just before I close the halves and put the canopy on, so that'll be for later. There's a few other smaller brackets that go up on the glare shield, but again, that'll go in later. The seat belts, if I pop this guy out of here. The seat belts were another struggle, and again, bigger struggles getting that to focus. But like I said, I'll get some still shots of it when we're all done here. And the face curtain pull handles, I kind of showed how I made those earlier. And I actually did, is that focusing? Kind of. I actually did drill a hole straight through to the back to run a thread through, and that thread actually held the handles there in place while I could put the glue on it and then paint it. And I think that really helped a lot with the installation of it. And the chart there, come on, focus. I actually photocopied the chart of his airport and shrunk it down to fit on there, which you can't really see that well. But anyways, I think it came out okay. Most of the seat detail and his feet, you know, once you put the seat in place, you can't see anything. But anyways, I'm going to leave this video here. Like I said, I will put some still shots up at the end of this so you can get a better idea of some closer up views. Now the seat belts, I did use a couple of different seat belt kits. They're both from the same company. I guess that's pronounced Edward. I don't know. But these are paper, which on one hand they're kind of nice. In one respect, they're a little easy to work with. But the problem is if you mess around with them too much, the paper layers will actually kind of split apart and you can't use it. And this little skinny one up here, it just fell apart. So I couldn't quite use that. Some of the others, these, I think they call that super fabric. Yeah, super fabric. It's weird. It's almost like they just painted them on and let the paint dry. And the way you use those is you just take the point of an X-Acto blade and you just start picking at it, and it just peels right off. It's like a really thin piece of well, dried paint, I guess. And these are kind of nice because they're much more flexible, and when you get them in position, they kind of just stick in place. Of course, I did use a little bit of CA to help hold them in place. I only used 2 of these for the 2 lap, the leg harness belts, and I used the one of those is those tan belts that come up and around here, because that's the paper one that fell apart on me. So the tan one's up in here, and again, I know that's focusing like crap, but anyways, like I said, I'll leave it here. The next video, I will start working on this. And again, one of the reasons I don't want to bond him in yet is because I need to fix the rudder. I need to make the rudder bigger, because this is a 104C fuselage. I need to make it a 104G fuselage, which will make that rudder out a bit bigger. I don't want to be messing with that while he's stuck in here, because knowing me, I'm going to bump him or drop him or something. So I'm going to put him in a safe place. Oh, and the paper seat belts. The paper seat belts came with nice photo etched buckles and harnesses, which again are almost impossible to get on the belts, but I did it. You know, a little bit of perseverance and concentration and a steady hand, and I have about 2 of those 3 skills. You can get them on, and I have been using this. And I did say earlier, this is a 10x eye loop here. I did say earlier that I drilled a hole in there so light could come in and make it visible. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking of that. That's a bunch of baloney. Because after I set it, you know, I was using it and I would put my finger over the hole and then off the hole and on the hole, and yeah, the lighting, it doesn't change anything with the lighting. I think I did that because I noticed that with this on, the lens starts to fog up pretty quickly. So I think I drilled that hole there to let some air ventilate through to help prevent it from fogging up. I think that's why I did that. But again, that was a long time ago, so my memory had failed me. But yeah, I think that's there to keep it from fogging up. So anyways, I'll end you off with some still shots, photos, and until the next one. And like I said before, I feel bad because it's been forever since I put a video out, and now this one is getting to be way too long. I'm still waiting for some leather for the poacher car. And again, with my kids out of school, it's much more harder to, yeah, I said much more harder, get over it, to find time to work on the videos. So until the next one, thanks for watching.